Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. By the way, breaking news. We did talk about this in hour number one, and I do want to mention this. It has just been announced that roughly 3,000 additional soldiers have now been deployed into Iran. I told you that this is going to put soldiers in harm's way. I told you that innocent soldiers could lose their life. I hope I'm wrong on that, but when you send 3,000 soldiers out there, certainly that is troublesome news. But anyway, we will get to that coming up tomorrow in the show. But we have a couple very special guests in studio with us right now. They are known as the Women of Cannabis. I like that, by the way. Sierra Riddle in studio along with Annie Eppley. They're going to talk to us a little bit about cannabis and their stories, particularly Sierra's story, which we're going to get to in a second, is really incredible. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Oh, thank you guys so much for having us. We are doing fantastic today and really excited to be here and, share with you guys and your listeners about the Women of Cannabis and all the amazing things we're doing.
Yes, and I want to get to that quickly. I just want to give my opinion on this as a whole. We serve alcohol. We know how many DUIs are on the roads. We just lost 3 innocent people at Desert Inn in Durango. Horrible car accident. Don't know if that was a DUI, but we see DUI crashes all the time. Nobody seems to talk about the dangers of alcohol. Not too many times do I hear someone that's high out of their mind that kills a bunch of people on the road. I think marijuana does far more good than bad. Let me be very clear on that. I am not one of those people that is anti-marijuana, anti-dispensary. In fact, I went to one last week. So I have no problem saying that. Let me start with you, Sierra, first. So your son was diagnosed with leukemia, and I'm so sorry that your son has had to go through this. However, you have used marijuana to his benefit. Can you talk a little bit about that story when you first learned that he got leukemia? I can't imagine how difficult that was for you and your family, but take me through this story because you made national news. This is a national story about how you are treating your son with cannabis. Talk to me a little bit about this.
Yes. So unfortunately, my son Landon was diagnosed with terminal leukemia when he was 2 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
And most people do not know the facts of leukemia, but male children, when they are diagnosed, will do 4 years of chemotherapy, steroids, and narcotics. That is a very long time to be doing that kind of a serious treatment plan.
Right.
So my son, unfortunately, did very, very poorly, and within 90 days, he was reduced to 50% of his body weight, lost his ability to walk, talk, eat. He was on Oxycontin, morphine, Ativan.
Oh, my gosh.
And the list just goes on. And they actually sent him home on hospice and said, we're going to send him home, make him comfortable, and, just wait until, his time. And I did not accept that. I took Landon straight from that hospital and drove him to Colorado, and my son became the second youngest American citizen, the youngest being Cash Hyde, who unfortunately passed away. And my son was 2 years old, given a medical marijuana card in Colorado. And I really thought that was like the end of it. Like, okay, I'm going to save his life. It's going to be fine. And then his oncology team was like, no, you're not. They reported me to CPS over a dozen times for medical abuse, medical neglect.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, failure to cooperate with treatments, and tried to take my son from me and have him put in medical foster care.
Who are these people again that did this?
His oncology team. So Dr. Stephen Hunger, hello, sir. Still here saying your name. Out of
Dr. Stephen Hunger, where does he work at?
He is the head of oncology at Children's Hospital of Colorado.
That guy should be ashamed of himself.
He really, and in court, in mediation in front of a judge, he literally said the words, I guarantee y'all on my medical degree, this woman will kill her child if you let her. I want your medical degree, sir. I want it in my hand. My son just celebrated 7 years cancer-free and medically cured. He's 9.5 years old now.
What a dumb bastard. I have no problem saying that.
What
a buffoon.
No qualms trying to kill my child.
Some of these doctors, they have the biggest egos in the world, and they let that get in the way of their decision-making, even if they might be wrong. And for this guy to go to those extremes, you have a son, a 2-year-old son at the time, that not leukemia, good chance he doesn't survive it. You're trying to do, as a mother, you love him, and you have, I would imagine, no history of harming children. You're trying to do what you think is best. When has marijuana killed somebody? It's unbelievable. I mean, I just don't understand how a doctor would do that. But anyway, we'll get off that idiot's the subject of that idiot. But I'm so glad that he's doing better now. So what is it about pot that can help treat cancer? Explain that to people like me and our listeners.
So there is actually a very, very huge amount of scientific evidence out there now coming from every country but this one, showing the medicinal value of cannabis towards all different types of cancers. We are the only country not doing it. But at the same time, our government owns the only patent on marijuana as a neuroprotectant. So they know that it's a healing plant, and Marinol is a synthetic THC that is a pharmaceutical that is only given to late-stage cancer patients and AIDS patients. Why is that? Y'all are telling us it's illegal and we can't use it, but you're prescribing it if it's made by your people.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. So what cannabis does is it causes apoptosis in the cancer cells. That's the first thing. It tells those cancer cells, you're not supposed to be here. You need to commit suicide and die. Then what else it does is it goes to your red blood cells, your healthy fighting white blood cells, and it protects them in an armor. It gives them a little suit of armor and a weapon. So now they're going to go kick ass. Now those fighter cells are strong, they're intact, and they are ready to go to battle. When we give people chemotherapy, it does not differentiate from any cell. It kills everything, literally every single thing. And that's why they turn into that little creature off the Lord of the Rings. You know, they're like, oh, my precious. Like they lose all skin color, all transparency.
Why is it that not many doctors are talking about this stuff?
Well, so now they are. I actually speak at about anywhere from 5 to a dozen not marijuana medical conferences per year. I'm unfortunately considered an expert in pediatric cannabis therapy as well as CBD. And there are so many doctors now that are coming out because a lot of doctors are here to make money, but a lot of them are here to heal us and to help us. But unfortunately, they were pharmaceuticalized. They were taught that this is the only path to healing and left out diet, nutrition, massage, even yoga. I mean, getting a good night's sleep.
You know what's interesting too is the fact that there are so many kids. We just did this in the last segment. So many kids that are misbehaving in the school system. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of this situation and the hell that your son has had to go through, but isn't it true that it could actually help kids in their moods and relax them a little bit?
Right. I actually own one of the longest standing CBD product lines, and I started it in 2014 for my son Landon. It's called Landon's Health Hut. And I started it for a multitude of reasons. One of them was I was charged a very high dollar amount for my son's medicine. And two, I was consistently being ripped off. So they would sell me something that said, oh, this is 5,000 milligrams of CBD. I didn't see any benefit, and I went and had it tested, and it had 5. So when people are trying to find this information or find the actual education, it's been convoluted because so many people have come on board now to say like, oh, here's the new and improved CBD water. It'll cure your cancer. And not realizing that curing cancer is mind, body, and soul. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to change your diet. And all of these children that are, so misbehaved, I guarantee you I could walk into their house and tell you why. Are they eating Fruity Pebbles before school?
Right.
Are they drinking Kool-Aid and sodas?
It sounds like my diet, actually.
Yeah, and people wonder, I think the last time I looked it up, I actually did a talk about this at one of my conferences. There's more than 6 million children that have a pharmaceutical prescription for some type of mood enhancer or dehibitor. Right? So either they need to be up or they need to be down.
Sure.
I have helped more than 100 children get off of Ritalin and Adderall, and they are now living a better, more productive home and family life than they ever were on those pills.
Wow. So do you think there was a correlation with sugar intake and cancer?
Yes, absolutely. So we all went to 4th grade biology, right? So we all learned that all cells, any and every cell feeds off of what? Glucose, sugar. That is what they need to survive. Carbs in our body turn into sugar. Almost everything does. And so to be able to feed the fastest growing mutated cell, why would you want to give it sugar? Why? And why are we giving our children such mass amounts of sugar every day? So, our food pyramid is completely screwed. We have been conditioned to be sick, and everyone is sick. I mean, does anyone in here not know somebody that has had cancer?
Of course.
I mean, we all can say we've known someone.
Sadly, yes. So this could help with attention deficit disorder as well.
Yes, absolutely. And, I post on our Facebooks and Instagrams testimonials that we get. I had a lady that just wrote in, and she sent me a picture. It was just a picture of her 8-year-old son sitting on a bed reading. And she said this has never happened in his whole life. She was like, Sierra, he makes eye contact with me now. I was getting multiple calls per week. I haven't gotten any since I started your CBD.
Okay, so let's just say an adult or a teenager, whatever the case may be. I know I have attention deficit disorder. I've had it my whole life.
Stop eating Fruity Pebbles.
Well, yeah, my diet is atrocious, and that's certainly a part of it. So
Are Frosted Flakes
so
okay?
if I walk into a dispensary right now, and I'm telling you the issues that I have, I certainly have attention deficit disorder. I have a horrible diet. What would you recommend I buy if I walk into a dispensary today?
Nothing. So most dispensary products are not made for medical reasons. They are made for recreational reasons. Like, oh, you want to have a good time.
So there's really nothing in there that could help
No, and we've actually seen over so many years, which honestly, you guys should do it here. I'm giving you an idea. So in Colorado, a radio station actually did this. They sent one of their people to 10 different dispensaries and bought products, the same product from each one, and had them all tested. None of them tested the same. None of them. They all tested way under what they were supposed to have in it and everything else. So if I give you a product and I tell you this is X amount of whatever, B12, vitamin C, whatever, and it's not only am I lying to you, I am literally mislabeling that product, and now I'm making a bad name for B12 or vitamin C because I didn't give you enough to even be your full dose for a day.
No one's ever told me that before. That is interesting. So let me ask you this question. My concern about marijuana is this. I don't like to smoke. And when I have in the past, I cough a lot. We all know that smoking, whether nicotine or marijuana, it's not good for your lungs. So what do you recommend then?
So I make about 25 different products in my line. Only one of them is smokable. So obviously my 2-year-old was not rolling up with Wiz Khalifa and smoking joints.
I'm glad to hear that.
So yeah, so we do. Now I will say I did teach my son to vaporize cannabis because he developed chemotherapy-induced chronic nausea and vomiting. He would vomit 25 to 50 times per day, every day. And at that point, you can't even keep water down. At this point, you have to live in the hospital. You're on IVs all the time, getting that IV nutrition. You're dehydrated. And if you're already a cancer patient going through chemo, that's a very dangerous place to be. And so making sure, that we're giving the right amounts of anything. If you drink too much water, you can get sick. So giving the right amounts of things and in the right intake. So if I'm dehydrated, should I drink a glass of water or go lay in a bathtub and hope that it absorbs? I should probably just drink a glass of water.
Of course.
So we have so many ways to intake cannabis through edibles, sublinguals, tinctures, on your skin, through your pores. I mean, we have patches now that we put on the prime areas of your skin, such as your joints and everything else, and it absorbs all day long, like a pain patch, like icy hot. Wow. We have delicious keto, gluten-free vegan gummies, and that's the thing. We shouldn't also be giving somebody a little, 5 to 20 milligram CBD with 50 milligrams of sugar in it. Well, it's completely undoing what we're trying to do.
Right.
So if you are an actual patient, I tell everyone, try to find a caregiver. There are people that are registered in the state of Nevada to be a caregiver, which means they get your plant count, they grow it for you, and then they make products specifically for you. I caregive for about 25 local people where I live.
Wow.
And so there's so many, you would never even have to smoke marijuana or cannabis if you did not want to. There is so many other ways. We all took a bath last night. Our friend Raven, hey Raven, brought us, she makes bath sachets. So not a bath bomb, it's like a tea bag that has hemp and lavender and everything else. And we're all, working and running around. Every single one of us, when we got out of the bath last night, we're like, wow, I feel like my muscles feel great. I'm feeling loose. And that's just from setting in it. So there's so many ways that we can intake it. And I feel like a lot of people are thrown off like, well, I don't want to smoke. And I'm like, you don't have to. Let me bust out my magic bag of all these different ways that you can utilize it without ever lighting a lighter.
That's incredible.
So one of the most popular ways to intake it these days is vaping, and it's been banned by the federal government.
Yes.
How bad is vaping really?
Okay, so I like to say that just like with anything else, it depends on how it's being manufactured. So we have known, the nicotine vape industry has been around for a very long time, and nobody ever got sick. And these kids are out here, just blowing through it. I see them at the stoplights. Like, are you on fire, good sir? Do you need help? Oh, you're just vaping. Okay, my bad. Sorry about that. Because it's really that bad. Like, I don't even know how they're making clouds this big, but it's the ingredients that are in it. So it's propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin. So those are two very food-grade products that you can inhale, eat, consume, whatever. Unfortunately, a lot of people that are in the marijuana industry used to be drug dealers. They used to be hood people. So they're not good business people, and they are taking those same practices and now trying to come into a legal industry and then cutting down their products. So they're adding things into it, such as vitamin A, vitamin E acetate.
They're diluting it.
And that is what's hurting people. So I have only ever made 100% pure THC cartridges. There is nothing else in there but THC distillate. And there shouldn't be. There really shouldn't ever be anything else in there. And I'm sorry, but I just have to say this. Anything that we're consuming should be from nature. Fruity Pebbles is not a natural flavor. Why are y'all smoking Fruity Pebble anything? Or cinnamon bun or wedding cake? I mean, it's like people are not understanding that we're taking artificial things and then putting a high amount of heat to it and then inhaling it.
Right.
I mean, that's like not good. I mean, I'm sure anybody, that was like kind of a pothead back in the day tried to roll grass and smoke it. Thank God we all survived, right? Because I just don't understand why people nowadays are so willing to experiment with their lungs or with anything, because there are tainted products out there.
Oh, there's no question. Joining us in studio, that's Sierra Riddle, one of the women of cannabis. Her friend Annie Eppley. I want to get you in here too, Annie. But Sierra's story is incredible. Her son, 2 years old, diagnosed with cancer, leukemia, and she has treated her son with medical marijuana. He is 7 years old now, and he's doing better.
He's 9 years old,
9 now.
7 years cancer-free.
That I am so happy to hear that.
Yes.
Congratulations. I want to bring you in here, Annie, because you've been sitting here patiently. So tell me a little bit about your experience in working with Sierra and what you guys do.
So basically what kind of catapulted me into this industry was the death of my husband. Sam was 33 years old. We're all on borrowed time. It's where he's supposed to be. Sam was 33 years old in one of the largest research hospitals in America, UT Southwestern. I'll keep saying that name as well because we need change. Sam just fell sick at work one day, and his job told him, well, just drive yourself to the hospital. You're not looking too hot. There he had 2 blood transfusions. About 2 months we spent in UT Southwestern, and I was sneaking in RSO, different forms of THC because he was in excruciating pain.
What was wrong with him?
A couple of different things. When he passed away is when we got the diagnosis. He had a severe blood clot in his bile duct.
Oh my God!
That created varices. So there was blood trying to get to his heart, and it couldn't get there. So it was creating varicose veins internally. And so what happened?
And that can cause infections and all that stuff.
You'll die internally if they can't find what varice is.
And that's so young. That's got to be rare.
Yes, extremely. This is the biggest thing. He's in UT Southwestern, of course.
And he was 33?
33. I drove an hour and a half. I passed probably about 15 hospitals to get to the largest research.
Awful.
When I saw that there was something wrong.
So you snuck in marijuana into the hospital to try to help him.
I did.
And did it make him feel better?
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely. But there's so many things. So I speak at all different Texas Hemp Convention. I'll be covering sobriety with cannabis. And basically, he comes from the AA world. So then being in the hospital and morphine and Dilaudid and all this, it's like, well, wait, let me see if I can bear the pain.
Right.
And so, he was utilizing that at home and not telling his AA buddies because he was in so much pain and not telling me. So when he wound up in the hospital,
I can't say I blame him.
Yeah.
Me neither.
It's awful.
He's trying to get better.
Right.
You know?
It's horrible.
So he's in the hospital. He's got about 12 doctors. They're all in the room, and they're like, we've been there for a little bit over 2 months. And they're saying to us, we don't know. We don't know what it is. All his blood work looks great, but his stomach was like feeling up with water. He had to have an emergency splenectomy. I mean, they did an exploratory surgery 5 days after he was admitted, and they built a shunt, flight in this. I mean, they just didn't know.
They didn't know what was going on.
There were 12 of them in the hospital room running frantically like, do you know? Do we, And so at that point, frustrated.
What hospital was this?
UT Southwestern in Dallas, Texas.
Texas. Okay.
Need to be held accountable. I broke down a couple of days before Sam passed away. And do you guys know what the endocannabinoid system is? One of them said 12 neurologists. One of them said, "Oh, I've heard of it." You're the largest research hospital in the world. As a human, I'm not a doctor. I don't.
Were there any lawsuits filed?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. They were terrified because at this point, literally, I had a little bitty cardboard box, and I said that had syringes in it that I had shipped to myself, and I said, "This is what it is." 12 doctors were in the room whenever I handed them that little box, and they says, "Well, we'll be back." 2 neurologists came back, and they handed the box back to me. They made me leave the room and spoke with Sam, my husband. Come to find out, they made him sign a refusal of autopsy. So if he passed away in UT Southwestern, we could not request an autopsy because then the board would see that they allowed the THC in his system. So I'm sure that there's probably a way to get around. Yeah, absolutely. So
what you're trying
at that point, my husband, we were together for 12 years. I mean, at that point, and he had just proposed to me a year before after all of this. So it was just this. Everything was so quick. Like the doctors came in and said, "Well, you need to hurry up and get married if you're going to do that." We married in the hospital.
Oh my goodness!
In the hospital, and
well, let me just say this because we only have this segment's gone by really fast. Both of your stories are both tragic, and I'm so glad that Sierra's son is doing so much better. I'm so sorry for what you had to go through and the loss of your husband. It's just awful. I can't imagine the pain, but almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's almost like he's still here today because you're helping people in the name of your husband, right? Which I think is very honorable, and I'm sure he would want you to do that. So thank you for helping other people, and I'm sorry for all that pain you must have endured, and I'm sure you still do. The pain never goes away, but we only have about a few more minutes left here. I want to give both of you an opportunity. Can you both, because now I'm interested, and I'm going to talk to you off the air, but give out the information if people want to contact you. Both of your stories. This is a national thing, right? Give out the information. How do people contact both of you? Website, email, any of that information. If they want to make some purchases and they want help, how can they reach out to you guys?
So, and briefly, Annie's story is just so beautiful and amazing. But we started the Women of Cannabis. We are a group of women who are empowering other females in the cannabis space, whether they're all the way from the bottom trimmers, work at a dispensary, or they own a product line. And we just had our conference here in Vegas. We actually sold out. We had over 500 women in attendance and had an absolute amazing empowering day for all of these women. And we are a minority in this industry, unfortunately. Men have just always been in charge of it. So if people would like to be a part of our next conference here, it's going to be in May here in Las Vegas. And you can find the Women of Cannabis on Facebook at Women of Cannabis. You can get me at Sierra at womenofcannabis.com, Annie at womenofcannabis.com. And then as far as my personal and Landon's, we're Landon's Health Hut. It's cbdforall.org. We're on Instagram at Team Landon and Cannabis. And then Annie has all of hers as well.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
I actually founded a nonprofit organization called Queens of Cannabis. So that's pretty much where you can find me.
Queens of Cannabis.
Yep, Queens of Cannabis on Facebook, Queens of Cannabis on Instagram. But then Women of Cannabis, we have 2 other partners that own the company with us, Parissa Rad and Danny Gardner. And so you can find all of us at Women of Cannabis. We just bought the domain today because there were some
that's awesome.
hiccups occurring. So we'll do our regionals in 4 states coming up in May all together, and then our national again here in Vegas in December.
Sierra, Annie, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your stories with our listeners. We really do appreciate it, and we would gladly have you on again to promote your event in May. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, we know it's not. It is getting to be more of a popular subject, but it's still not out there. So we appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Segment goes by fast. Take a quick break. Be back right after this.
Sean Hannity, weekdays noon to 3 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. Wrapping up a Friday, 2020, baby. And, of course, we'll be back at it on Monday. I'm not going to be taking a vacation for a while. That could be bad news for some people. But it was a nice Christmas vacation and then, of course, New Year's. And a lot to get to, of course, over the weekend. We're going to be learning some more information about this attack and the killing of Qassam Soleimani, as I like to call him, Salami, because that's probably what he looks like now, as I said, which is a good thing. But we're covering also the breaking news that the U.S. will be sending additional troops to the Middle East, roughly somewhere around the vicinity of 3,000 troops, 3,000 soldiers deployed as tensions with Iran is mounting following this airstrike that killed Soleimani. And this is according to a U.S. defense official. So, we'll see how this thing plays out. I've certainly given my opinions, but the guy we have with us on the line right now, we call him the Hollywood conservative. We call him Mr. X. He certainly is a Hollywood conservative. He is a Trump supporter, and he also happens to be a Hollywood producer. And the reason why we don't give his name out is in fear that he could lose his job. In fact, he tells us all the time that he has lost jobs and he has not been given jobs because he is actually a Republican, because he is a Trump supporter, which, by the way, I would never agree with. I think everybody should be treated equally. I don't care who you support, unless you're supporting the Ku Klux Klan. If you're supporting Donald Trump, there's a far cry there. Although some liberals might disagree with me.
He's actually said that he hasn't lost jobs because he's a Trump supporter, but because certain things have happened that actually makes him support Trump more.
Mr. X, I believe we have you on the line, sir. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
What's up?
Yeah, I'm good. Listen, guys, if you go on a dating app in Los Angeles, I swear to God, 95% of the women on there, in their profile, it says Trump supporters don't bother. Like, legitimately, you and that's dating, obviously, and that's different.
Okay, but let's pull back on this. Let's pull back on this for a second. I'm gonna defend them for a second. Here's why. Would you rather, and be honest with me here, would you rather date a Sarah, forget about what she looks like, whether you're attracted to her or not is not the point I'm trying to, would you rather date an ultra-religious right-winger, right, who's anti-gay, anti-threesome, pro-life? Would you rather date a woman like that? Or would you rather date a liberal on the left? Be honest with me. I want you to be honest, Mr. X.
I would rather date neither because I don't really care. And the bottom line is, like, that's the issue that I think these women and, quite frankly, people in the industry don't understand, is that because I chose to support Trump over the actual Antichrist, Hillary Clinton, that doesn't make me a racist. It doesn't mean that I agree with all of his policies or even most of them. It just means that I thought he was the lesser of two evils, but that shouldn't necessarily make people not want to work with me or not want to date me.
Well, I agree. Listen, Mr. X, I'm on your side when it comes to that.
I know.
However, I am going to pull back on your anti-Christ remark with Hillary Clinton. You're going to be sad to hear this, but I've turned over a new leaf that you might not like. I listened to the Hillary Clinton interview she did on the Howard Stern show a few weeks ago. I found a side to her that I have never seen before. It was like a 2-hour interview. She talked about everything. She talked about how she met Bill Clinton. She talked about if she's ever been a lesbian. She talked about if she's ever been with a woman. She talked about Obama. She talked about Trump.
That's burned in my mind forever now. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, there's a reason why I bring that stuff up. We saw finally, in my personal opinion, the human side to Hillary Clinton, her dating life, growing up in high school, whether she was popular. I found it to be the first time where she wasn't robotic. She was really honest and open, and I would give Howard Stern most of the credit for that. But with that being said, I'll tell you right now, if she ran against Donald Trump, I would vote for her. And the reason why I would vote for her, because I think he's made so many mistakes, particularly yesterday. And I want to get your thoughts on this. The killing of General Qassam Soleimani. We all know he's a terrorist. We all know he's killed innocent people. We all know he deserved to die. But with that being said, now troops are being put in harm's way. We just heard the story. Roughly 3,000 troops are being sent out there. This is the same man who criticized Barack Obama and said Barack Obama was going to start a war with Iran because he wanted to get reelected. This is the same man who criticized Barack Obama constantly. So what do you make of what took place last night?
I'm just surprised you're not more interested in the real story, which is that the Golden Globes dinner has become entirely vegan. Did you hear about that? It's true, but no.
Vegan food is disgusting.
That's a very big deal to me.
Vegan food is
very concerning.
I didn't even know there was anything happening with all this. No, listen, I'll be perfect. I'll be honest with you. Agree with you 100%. I'm not down with warmongering in any form, and nothing infuriates me more than when America is the world police, as Trey Parker and Matt Stone put it. Right. I don't care about these Middle Eastern countries. I would be happy if they blew them all to hell and do not like getting involved. I know that this guy was incredibly evil and horrific and probably deserved to die 100 times over.
Of course.
But it's not our job to kill him.
There you go.
All this is going to lead to is more terrorist attacks and garbage. Yep. And quite frankly, too, like, just to go on a slight tangent, like, do you guys remember the movie Zero Dark 30?
Yes,
like,
I do.
It was a fine movie, but I came out of that movie going, why did we waste so much money and so many resources and so many lives trying to kill this old man? I don't care. Like,
see, I agree, Mr. X. Mr. X.
Eye for an eye. It's not like
I agree.
I read a quote today where it was like, "There's been justice for the lives of the people that he's." No, there's not. Like, there's not.
That's not justice. No, I mean, listen, we do agree on some things, and I think we are 100% in agreement when it comes to this. So let me ask you this. I want to read a tweet of a man that comes on our show a lot. I'm sure you don't always agree with him. That would be Michael Avenatti. But I want to read this tweet because I think it's important, and I want to get your reaction to it. Michael Avenatti.
One of my movies, but yeah, go ahead.
Michael Avenatti said, "I'm not buying that General Soleimani was plotting to kill thousands of Americans, and that's why he was killed. I believe it's completely fabricated, just like the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. This administration lies at every turn about everything. Why should we believe them now?" What do you say to that?
I don't look. I can't speak to that, honestly, because if there is an actual, piece of intelligence that is material, unlike what the Democrats have tried to find with regard to the impeachment and a bunch of hearsay and nonsense, but if there was actual physical evidence of something where they intercepted a communication or something where there was an active plot going on with this guy leading it to do, some kind of attack on Americans, okay. I don't get the feeling that was the case because the way that this went down and the fact that it didn't go to Congress or anything like that, to me, this just feels kind of like, Trump trying to solidify himself with his core fan base.
There you go. I could not agree with you more. Yep.
Nobody's stupid. Or people elected. Like, I remember George W. Bush, with 9/11, he became so popular around that time. And it's so obvious to me.
It's obvious to you because you're a smart guy. We don't always agree on things, but I respect your opinion. Why do you think it's so not obvious to so many Republicans out there, particularly those on Fox News this morning? I don't know if you heard the Geraldo Rivera thing, but why do you think it's so different?
Well, I mean, he's not in a tailspin. He's not getting crushed.
He's not.
His polls aren't done. It's not a desperation ploy. This guy was legitimately dangerous. We don't know if he was compensated for the $1.7 billion that Barack Obama gave Iran. We have no idea. I mean, we know he'd killed a lot of American soldiers and potentially citizens. Mm-hmm. We know that he had plans, as CNN even says. CNN, like I said, they stated that there was intel that he was planning on more attacks. We know he was involved in the embassy attack
like
as well.
Like we said, we all know he's a horrible human being. Yeah, we know that.
And I will. And to be quite honest, and to answer your question as well is. I think that the reason, first of all, it's the problem with this country is just how much people feel they have to toe the party line. And it happens on both sides. And if Trump does something that's positive, the liberals still cannot recognize it as such.
I agree, Mr. X.
If Obama had done this, the liberals would be justifying it. So
probably.
And I don't necessarily think that that every Republican, even those who support Trump, agree with this, but they get so defensive because they're
here's a perfect example of that. Mr. X, sorry to interrupt. Here's a perfect example of that. I want to play this audio for you, and then I want you to respond to it. This is Geraldo Rivera getting into it with Brian Kilmeade. As you know, Brian Kilmeade, who does a show here on this station, and we've had him on before. He was very nice to us, but he certainly is taking the president's side on this one. And then Geraldo Rivera, by the way, a guy who usually takes Donald Trump's side, who's a personal friend to Donald Trump. Listen to this exchange, and then we'll comment on it.
Your arrogance is exactly what's wrong with the region.
My arrogance, not agreeing with you is arrogant?
You think because,
not agreeing with you is arrogant?
You're not a frontline fighter that has to go back into Iraq. Again, you want Americans
not the
back in
contractor
Iraq?
who just got killed because
you want Americans back in Iraq?
Right. Look, we have 5,400 there. You want them to be victims?
I was there when they were getting killed, Brian. I was there when they were getting killed 5, 6, 7 a day.
What does that mean?
Is that what we want again?
They were responsible for killing Americans. They supported the whole insurgency.
Why did we kill?
They supported the whole insurgency. emergency. That's okay?
This is a fraught decision that will have implications far beyond the celebratory moment of taking out the terrorists.
Could not agree with Geraldo Rivera more. What do you say to that, Mr. X?
It's a sad state of media in our country, but yes, I agree from the perspective that I hate that we're sending troops over there, and some of them are going to die. And JD, listen, man, you know where I fall on most of these subjects. And you're right that this guy was a total monster and that he deserved to die. But the problem is there's so many like that in other countries. Mm-hmm. And if we start, just putting ourselves in, like, I don't want a single American soldier to die. I would rather these guys.
I said that earlier today.
And blow each other to hell. I don't care. Like, that's their own. Like, I'm such an isolationist when it comes to this type of thing. And so, now, with that said, like, I will at least reserve some judgment, and I'm not going to be a liberal and be like, Trump's evil, and like, maybe he did have actual intelligence that there was an impending attack.
And I think he did.
That. The issue, okay, and if he did, here's my issue with that, though. Does this stop that now? Like, does this guy not have
Of course not.
Who could pull off the same thing? So that was my thing as well about, like, Zero Dark 30. I brought up that example, was like, us torturing all these people to get intelligence, like, is this going to make them like us more? Is this going to make them less likely
exactly.
to attack?
That's the point I made earlier today.
I don't want one person to die because of this either, but people die in wars, and when you join the military, you assume the risk. You get the extra benefits. You get and again, my brother he's actually relatively highly ranked in the military. He's in the Army. He was just moved from Benning to Fort Lewis, Washington. But when you join the military, you put yourself in that position, and there are safeguards to protect you and your family after the fact if something, God forbid, does happen to you.
So what do you say? So what about all the men and women that lost their lives in the Iraq War, an ill-advised war that was on at the minimum faulty intelligence? I have some conspiracy theories of why that war started. Do you just say to the families, "Well, assume the risk"? No, I think you have to. It has to be a last resort. And Mr. X.
I'm just saying when you join the military, you assume the risk.
Well, you can say the same thing about a police officer. I mean,
the risk is significantly higher in the military, especially if you are deployed.
Listen, I assume the risk when I go on the radio every day. I assume people are going to threaten me and call me names all the time. But there has to be there should be a reason for it.
But you aren't going to lose your life over that.
That's debatable.
My entire extended family are military. My grandfather was a colonel, very high standing in World War II. I have a very big military family. Listen, if a country was invading us, or if there was an Adolf Hitler type situation,
that's different.
I would join the military.
Yeah, that's different.
Like, I would defend our country if
Absolutely.
they came here. Like, I remember after 9/11, I was so pissed off. I was like, I might join the army. But here's the problem, though, is like when this country and this world have become so effed up that there are so many monetary motives that are behind these things that were even like as far back as Vietnam and things like that. Like, these were not the simple days of World War II and World War I and the Civil War and like times. And there's no right war, but there is. Like, if a country are trying to invade us, or if there's a serious issue, between us and another country and we have to go to war to resolve it, then fine. But like this type of thing, like this is just like us taking pot shots at each other over and over again. And it just leads to more violence and no real resolution. Like, if this is really how we feel, then just go carpet bomb this country. Like, if that's how, if we think that they are our enemy, but that's not the case.
You have to pick and choose your battles.
And again, I will say this: we have 1.1 million troops in the United States, and 3,000 of them have been deployed to this particular situation. It's not like it's a significant amount of our military.
Okay, keep in mind, this is within 24 hours of this attack. Do you think these are the only 3,000 troops that are going to be deployed in Iran? We don't know exactly what their retribution is going to be yet. We don't know. Certainly they are planning something, and it is going to happen. This is just within the first 24 hours, JD. And by the way, we could have 100 million troops, and if one of them dies in vain for a mistake, which I do believe it was a mistake what the president did last night, then I think that person is dying in vain. And these heroes, these men and women in uniform, like your brother, if we're going to put them in harm's way, it better be for the right reasons, and it better be the right decision. And if Donald Trump, any part of that decision was to do it for his personal relationship with himself, because he's a narcissist, to validate his presidency, then that is for the wrong reasons.
I do agree with that.
That's the leap I won't take, though, man, is like, it's the leap that so many liberals do.
Well, I don't know if that's the case, though. I'm not saying
That's the thing. Like, we assume they know what's in Trump's mind, what's in his heart.
I don't.
Intelligence he's getting, and so like it seems superficially, and we can talk about it. Even to me, who does support Trump, that this was almost more of a PR stunt than anything. Like, you could be like, look, we killed this bad guy, and so I'm hopeful. That was my initial response, and it was infuriating. If more intelligence comes out over the next couple of days, and it's like, look, no, this is what this guy's plan was. He was going to, throw a bunch of TNT.
We need specifics. Mr. X, I was very clear on this. As long as they give us some specifics, and I'm talking about, stop it with we can't declassify this stuff. If we're going to be sending troops over there in harm's way, I want specifics. And Mr. X, if they give us those specifics and it's reasonable.
They actually can't declassify this stuff, Brian.
There's certain things they can
there's so many different
let's put
levels of red tape that they have to go through and paperwork. I mean, to declassify anything like that, especially to the general public, which happens to be 300 million people.
JD, there's more than they can say as well. They were planning to attack Americans. We need more information than that, and that's all I'm going to say. All right, Mr. X, I want to move on to some. I guess you could say some subjects that are a little more light than war and death. Although maybe you would rather go to war than go to the Golden Globes. I don't know, and eat vegan food. But what do you expect? What do you expect from the Golden Globes besides horrible vegan food?
I expect lots of patriotic speeches about our country and God. And no, I mean, it's going to be the typical thing where somebody's going to win and a bunch of celebrities whose opinions I completely do not care about are going to say how awful our president is and how we've got to make a change and, that the time's now and we got to get out there and vote. And then, I wish that they would address, the litany of morons that are going to go up against Trump, but it's going to be political as always. And how?
Come on, I want to hear Robert De Niro get up there and swear.
Well, who's hosting it?
Well, Ricky Gervais, which I love Ricky Gervais.
He's funny.
I do too.
Yeah, he's very funny.
He's fantastic, and I'm sure he will, have lots of. But he doesn't strike me as like a pure communist, like a lot of, Hollywood. He
I agree.
Me as a more intelligent guy who will probably poke fun at both sides. I'm sure he'll have something to say about the vegan dinner that they're serving.
Of course.
I mean, look, man. I wish I could be a brain surgeon or a lawyer or something where I'm not surrounded by these disgusting leftists just constantly. But I was put on this world to make movies, and this is the industry that I'm in. And I also can respect things about a person, unlike them. Like if you go, oh, I'm a Sanders supporter, I don't just immediately condemn you in every way. Like I look at it more faceted. And if we have everybody on the left and right have core beliefs that they can definitely agree on if they would, at least try. And that's how I view it. It's like
you would hope so. Yeah, you would hope so.
And Mr. X, what was your favorite movie? What do you think was the best movie in your opinion of 2019?
You know what's crazy? So I thought it was going to be Joker, and it was close with Joker and Parasite because those were two of my favorite movies. But then last week I saw 1917, and if you guys haven't seen this yet, I mean, it is unbelievable. You have to see it in the theaters. It's the new Sam Mendes World War I film, and I mean, this thing is unbelievable. You guys saw Birdman, right?
Of course.
They did the
I didn't like it.
Trick when they did. Well, fine, but you saw how they did it all as quote unquote like one shot. The entire movie was one shot. So 1917 is the same. So it's essentially two guys going behind German lines in World War I, and the entire movie's one long shot, and it is unbelievable, like phenomenal. It was my favorite film of the year.
Yeah. All right.
In a great year for movies. I mean,
speaking,
this year was like.
Oh yeah, there were some great movies this year. I want to see the new Adam Sandler flick. By the way, I do want to see that movie.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Number 3 or 4. It is pulse pounding. I mean, it is like.
I want to see
fantastic.
it. Yeah, I might catch that. I might catch that this weekend.
You got to, man.
Although a couple of Vegas media folk are unhappy with the way that they portrayed gambling and accurately.
Who gives a crap? There's some morons on side. Oh, there's not a sports book at the Mohegan Sun. Who gives a crap, you loser? You frickin' loser. Who cares?
Well,
God.
also, Jason, you're right, because he does these crazy parlays. That's what he does. And
Yeah.
he does these parlays where you could never get this action. It's like parlaying the opening tip with guys' stats. Like, you couldn't put nearly as much money as he's putting on them, and B,
Yeah.
like, you're never going to win one of these. And C, I don't even think you can get those parlays.
You know, idiots that say stuff like that on social media are the ones that are like, wait a second, he's supposed to be the last Zohan. Well, yeah. Well, anyway, I wanted to ask you this, Mr. X, and if you're just joining us, he is the Hollywood conservative, Mr. X, producer out there in Hollywood who is a Donald Trump supporter. I want to ask you about Martin Scorsese because I thought the last movie he directed was fantastic. Of course, we're talking about the gangsta movie with Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. I mean, it was Harvey Keitel was fantastic.
The
I thought
Irishman?
It was The Irishman was
Okay.
really good. Do you think he's directed his last film, or do you think Scorsese's got a few more left in him?
I mean, I would say yes, but then I look at Clint Eastwood, who's like 174 years old. And
Yeah, he's actually 212.
I mean, Scorsese, I mean, why? Like, The Irishman's unbelievable.
Yeah, great movie.
He's in a zone, like, and Scorsese's, what, is he in his 70s, I assume?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he's up there.
I think he's 75.
He's got a couple films. I mean, directing's easy. Don't let anybody ever say that I said that. But, I mean, you're surrounding yourself with good people. And just, at that level, when there's that much money, like, I think he will probably direct again, if I had to guess. I mean, This is definitely one of his sort of magnum opuses. I don't know if you can pluralize that, but I think he'll be back. I mean, and I hope so. I consider him one of the greatest American filmmakers that ever lived, so I hope so.
So The Irishman was released, purely on Netflix, and it did quite well. I think it had 25 million, views in the first week or so. Do you think that's a sign of the future for movies?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, although I do, and here's the thing: I saw Irishman in the theater, and I do.
Yeah,
think
so did I. Yep.
I do think the movie theater experience is still an experience, and the box office, it wasn't like cataclysmic this year. I think there are always going to be people who want to go to the movies. So I think what it's done, it's made it harder to make big films that have theatrical releases, but I don't think that'll ever go away. I mean, I took my daughter to go see Frozen 2 over the holidays, and I love to go sit in the theater and eat some popcorn and see the trailers. Like, I don't think that'll go away, and it might change, and I do love being able to sit at home and watch a movie in my underwear, but there's also I do the movie experience. I hope it will never go away,
and it's getting better. The comfortable seats. They now serve alcohol at some of these movie theaters.
Exactly.
The food is improved. I love going to the movies.
They have full beds in some.
That's true.
I've seen that.
Once they make a rule that you can actually shoot someone for talking during a movie, like that becomes.
Well, our producer would be the first person that would do that.
They hand you a Nerf gun when you walk in.
It's true.
There actually was a news story in Philly like 10 years ago about a guy who shot a guy in the leg because he wouldn't stop talking during a movie, and I was like,
oh boy,
it's never right to shoot someone, but if ever there could be a justification for that. By the way, can I ask something real quick?
Quickly, yep.
You guys saw the video in Texas, the shooting that kind of got lost over the holidays.
The Texas church shooting, yes, correct. Yes, I did.
That was unbelievable, man. That really I found that fascinating as far as from the gun control angle, because doesn't change my opinions, and my opinions are I'm glad that there were people in there that were legally allowed to carry. I've never had a problem with that, but with that being said, we need to find out how that person got a gun. Was he mentally ill? Was he legally allowed? It doesn't change any of my opinions. And by the way, it didn't take an AR-15 to take that guy out too. So it doesn't change my opinions, Mr. X, but you do make a very, very valid point there. I'm glad that there were. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
I think that there's no measure of strictness that I'm not okay with. That was a very horribly composed sentence.
Yeah.
But what I mean to say is, like, I'm okay with pretty much any stringent number of background searches
as
far as who's in mental health evaluations. And I agree, there's no need for a private citizen to have a bunch of automatic weapons. But I know a lot of liberals out here are just like, ban guns.
Well,
like any
Mr.
shooting,
X,
get rid of all guns
we
all the
are
time.
definitely in agreement today. A shocker, actually. No, but we agree a lot. Listen, I always appreciate it when you come on, Mr. X. Thank you so much for your time.
We didn't talk about the impeachment.
That's
why,
true.
We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah. I'm excited for that.
All right, guys.
Mr. X, thank you for your time, man. Always appreciate it. We'll catch up with you next week, okay?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. X.
He is the Hollywood conservative, Mr. X. Wow, this has been an entertaining show where we are always covering all the local news, national news. We covered the school issue with John Buchagan. Of course, we just had Sierra Riddle and Annie Eppley in studio talking about the women of cannabis and how her son has been cured of cancer because of marijuana. And, of course, we are going to cover throughout the weekend and into Monday, we are going to be talking about this General Qasem Soleimani and the repercussions. What does it mean for America? So we are going to take about a 48-hour break or so, and we are going to be back at you on Monday. Also, check out our website, which is new and improved, thevegastake.com. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. My thanks to Tate, who filled in, who did a great job on the board for us. Tate. And we will see you bright and early on Monday, folks. Back at it. Have a great weekend. Sean Hannity coming up next.